Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for DIY home plumbing repair. And this is brought to you by Tarrant Regional Water District and the City of Arlington Water Utilities. And so I'm going to just get started. And before we actually start with the presentation by our plumber, I'm going to do a few little housekeeping bits and talk to you a little bit about TRWD and about Arlington. And so thank you so much again for joining us. Our plumber is going to get to questions at the end. So he's going to go through a few different things, and then at the end, he's going to ask your or answer your questions. So throughout the entire time, make sure that if you have a question, you're typing it there in the chat or in the Q&A box, and then I'll be going through and prioritizing those questions, and we'll make sure that our speaker gets to them at the end. Our speaker today is Jeff Riffle. He's a master plumber and he's also the senior plumbing inspector for the city of Arlington. My name is Heather Bass and I'm a conservation coordinator at TRWD, and I'm here just moderating things. And like I said, we're going to get started soon. And first, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Arlington. So if you are an Arlington resident and you have one of the remote read water meters, you can now go to arlingtontx.gov/knowyourh2o, and that's where you can find all of the new information about how you can monitor your water bill. So instead of just seeing what you do every month, you can look at usage based on your daily usage or even hourly usage. You can set up alerts to see if you are, going over a certain threshold that you don't want to go over, or perhaps to see if you're having some type of leak when you think you're not using any water, but really you're seeing that you are using some water. And you can also look at 2 years of past bills. So it's a really great resource. So if you do have one of those remote read water meters in Arlington, go ahead and go sign up there so that you can take advantage of all those different capabilities that you have now. Also, if you're an Arlington resident, along with this presentation, we're offering a little free plumbing kit from your local library. So whenever you get done with this, check your email and you'll get instructions on exactly how to go pick it up. But it comes with a practical plumbing handbook. And so that plumbing handbook will go over a lot of this stuff in even more detail than we're able to go over it today. And then you'll also get some other little goodies. We've got some toilet dye tabs in there so that you can test and see if your toilet is running or leaking in any way. And then some other little fun things that will help you in your DIY plumbing endeavors. So like I said, make sure you check your email afterwards if you are a Arlington resident so that we can get you one of those plumbing kits. So as I said, this presentation is also sponsored by Tarrant Regional Water District. So I just want to talk about TRWD real quick. We are the people who maintain all of the pipelines and infrastructure and reservoirs that are needed to provide raw surface water to our local water treatment plants. Our local water treatment plants then take that water and they treat it to drinking water standards and provide it to our homes and our businesses. And so, like I said, we maintain all of that infrastructure there, and then we also deal with flood control and the recreation, which is the Trinity Trail system. And so you might wonder why TRWD cares about this type of thing. And that's because conservation is an important water supply strategy to continue to provide ample water to our growing population. And so our water conservation facing website is savetarrantwater.com, and you can go there to find all of TRWD's water conservation resources. And so some of the things you can do is you can sign up for free weekly watering advice that's custom to your location that lets you know how much to water your lawn. You can also get a free sprinkler check from a licensed irrigator. So you can sign up, they come to your house, they check your sprinkler, let you know how much water you're using, let you know if there are any inefficiencies or leaks, and give you all kinds of educational advice on that sprinkler system. We also have a calendar of events there, other events just like this one that are happening in the future that you can check out. And then we've got tons of resources, just information about how you can save water at home, videos of past events just like this one, and some of the ways that we're able to continue to provide this type of conservation programming to everyone here in North Texas is through partnering with other organizations. So of course today we're partnering with the city of Arlington, but we also partner sometimes with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service and the Tarrant County Master Gardeners in order to provide some of these educational programs. Okay, so now that I have talked all about Arlington and TRWD, I'm going to talk a little bit about Fix a Leak Week and why we're doing this presentation. And then I'm going to turn it over to our plumber so he can start telling you all the great DIY tips. So Fix a Leak Week is something that's put on by the EPA. And basically it is to just encourage everyone to go through and fix their leaks and to let everyone know that a lot of households do have leaks, and just a small household leak can really cause a lot of water waste. And you're paying for that water, of course, and so we don't want to waste that. And in addition to that, of course, that water is important. So there's all types of common leaks, and so that's why we're here today, to just tell you a little bit about how you can fix some of those leaks yourselves. And it says here that 90 gallons or more per day is the average leak. So leaks, of course, they can vary by how much water is coming out of them, how often it comes out, what type of leak it is, according to how much water you're really wasting. But an average of 90 gallons or more per day out of a leak is pretty extensive. Okay, so I'm going to take this opportunity to go ahead and bring on Jeff Riffle. He is our master plumber, and he's going to be here today talking to you all about how to do your own plumbing. So Jeff, if you'll go ahead and you want to turn on your mic and your camera.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I see you and I hear you. All right, let me go ahead and switch over our presentation here to your first slide about the anatomy of a toilet, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, hi folks. So a toilet is one of your more common areas that leak. A lot of times you can just listen when you're in the bathroom. If it's quiet, you can hear them dripping or losing water. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes they actually leak into the bowl through the flapper and you actually don't hear it. So as you see the diagram on the screen there, I'm going to kind of show it to you. If you can see, I can probably, you know what, let me move this down just a little and show you the insides of the toilet. Other than just thin, this will be a little bit more. So we have your fill valve, your flapper, your fill tube, your handle, and your chain to your flapper. That's pretty much it for your inside part of your toilet. Most of the time what leaks is your flapper. It's the easiest to change out, and all you're going to do is you're going to reach in here, you're going to unsnap it. Sometimes they unhook. They have little rubber that you just unhook from your flapper catch, and then it comes up to your handle, and you just undo your handle chain from your handle. Sometimes it's just different types of, but a lot of times your little seal right around your flapper here, depending on your water and that kind of stuff, the hardness, over time this gets warped and it will need to be replaced. That's your most common area that leaks in a toilet. The other part is your flush valve. This part right here, and then it goes into your little rubber tube, goes into your fill tube. That is actually what goes inside your bowl. So when this drops down and it flushes, that drops down, tells it to fill up. You're going to have water going into your fill tube that's going to go into your bowl, and then also it comes out around the base of this one to fill the tank, and it comes up to the certain level. You always want to make sure your water level stays on your fill tube. There's a little line here that says fill line. You don't want it to go over that. You don't want it to be below that because it uses the vacuum exactly the way your tank is designed to get your best flush. So that's really important. Sometimes these flush valves will wear out and they will continue to run and overflow into your tube. And so that's to change that. I'm going to turn this around a little bit. Hopefully y'all can see this. And here's your shutoff. First thing you want to do is this is a quarter turn. So in this case, you're going to turn it a quarter turn. Some of them are the type that you just turn until it's all the way off, just like clockwise. You always turn it clockwise to turn them off. And then you're going to unscrew your little supply line here. And just to kind of go over a few tools to have real quick before I go any further. As far as the toilet goes, I'm going to just bring up a few tools for this. I like to have 2 pairs of channel locks or adjustable wrenches, pliers, different names that are used. And then you have a adjustable wrench here as well to help get the supply line off. This is real handy to get down here and take it off from here or take it off from up top at your tank area. Once you do that, I have these damn tight. You're going to take your channel locks, in this case, and you're going to put it on just the nut. You got to make sure you get it on just the nut, just right. Don't get it on the threaded part. You're going to take that off. And then there you go. So as it fills up, it comes up, and this is the adjustable part on this one. Most of your ones that you see nowadays are designed this way, and you just turn this, and it'll tell you right up here minus or plus, and it'll allow it to adjust that fill so it stops it at that line. That's real important to get maximum flush. So you just you can take this to the supply house with you, get one, come back and put it back on the way you took it off. Make sure, again, turn your water off before you do anything. I always like to put a little Tupperware container down underneath there and a towel. That way you catch any residual water. Your fill tube here, it's rare, but occasionally your gasket down here will leak and it will come out. If it's leaking, a lot of times it will come out around where this seats to your bowl. And that just comes off. This just unscrews here. And you take it out, and I'll show that to you real quick. And limited time here, so I'm trying to hurry. So once you get your nut off the bottom, there's that part of it. And then that's what that looks like with your gasket here. And you can replace that. That's not very often, but every now and then this little tube will get cracked or something will happen to it. And then your tank, the bowl washers and nuts are come through here. And I'm not going to go through all that. That would have to have a bowl, but that would allow you to take this tank off your bowl as the tank to washer for dismantling this from your bowl. So you have your handle here. Sometimes that gets broken. That just unscrews here. Sometimes they're counterclockwise, the opposite direction of tightening. It would be opposite of what you would normally do to get it off. And it's always advisable to take it with you because all your different tanks and stuff and toilets are different makes. So as far as the leak, I believe you'll get a little tab if you like. You can buy the little color tabs. I think you get a little packet if you want to order it. And you drop your tab in here. And that is kind of like a food coloring. I used to use food coloring and drop it in there. And if you see water coming into your bowl that or color, whether it's red, blue, or green, and it comes into your bowl, that's normally telling you that you've got a leak from your tank to your bowl. Most of the time, the most common, again, is your flapper, and it's also the easiest to replace. I believe that should do it on your toilet. If you have any other questions, we can answer them at the end of our session. Next, we have all right, let's move to a faucet. I'm going to get the single handle faucet. All right. So there's two different types of faucets. You have your single handle here, which is your lavatory faucet for your restroom, bathroom, and it's gonna move up to the middle for hot and cold both, to the left for the hot, to the right for the cold, and down straight in the middle for it to be off. So on this, the tools you'll need, again, I'll kind of go over the tools that's really good to have around the house for general repairs. You have a 6-way screwdriver. You can get these, they're real inexpensive in any hardware store. Pull out the different size Phillips and standard head. And then on the end of them, you have a little nut driver. Really handy tool to have. Again, 2 adjustable wrenches. Really good to have. Your other adjustable wrench here for your, Crescent is a name brand, is what I've always called it. That allows you to take off the supply lines and stuff like that. And then a multi Allen set that gives you all the different sizes. And then all you're going to do so let's go over and talk about your different types of leaks. So let's say your faucet's sitting here and you've got a drip coming out of your aerator area here, and it's constantly dripping. That's going to be your seat. That's going to be a little cartridge rubber gasket seat, depending on the type of faucet you have. In this case, I'm going to show you what that is. If it's leaking out of around the base here, like when you turn it on and it starts coming out around here, that's going to be like an O-ring or gasket type that's going to seat between the cartridge and the top of the handle here of your swivel. So I'm going to take this apart real quick. Again, you get the right size here, you turn it till it comes off. And you want to make sure you use the right size. You don't want to strip it, because then you'll have other problems. Once you get that loose, that comes off. Again, let me back up a little bit. Make sure you turn your water off. Make sure it's off by turning it on and no water coming out. Same with the toilet. Should have went over that. When you turn your water off, you want to flush the tank. Make sure no water's coming in. That's going to make sure your water's off all the way. So once you have your water off, you open it up. No water's coming out. Take your handle off. Then you're gonna again. This is an area where you can use an adjustable up here, or you got to be real careful. You don't want to tear it up. It's best to use one of those. But if you don't have one, you're going to get right on top. There's some little grooves right here that allow you to take it off. You're gonna take this top part off. Again, it's important to watch how you're taking this stuff apart. That way you don't get confused when you go back with it. So this part right here I was talking about, this is your gasket that seats your ball that swivels and allows the water to come on if it comes out around the handle area when you turn it on. That's the part that's going to be bad. This part right here, if that's doing that. I recommend, this comes in a little kit. Go ahead, if you're going to do this, go ahead and do it all. So you're going to get that part with your kit. In this case, it's very common on the single handle. And you're going to take your ball out. You don't need to get a new ball. It's rare that those go bad. And then down in here, down inside, are your little washers. They call them washerless, but they still have a little washer. In this case, there's a little spring and boot washer, what I call it. And the spring is a little narrower at the top and wider at the bottom. There's different types. Again, make sure you want to take these with you to the supply house and they'll give you the right ones. There are different sizes. So with that, you have 2 on this case, and then you get your new ones. And what I use is I use this to put it down in there and let it slide right down in there. And then once it's in there, of course, it pops off, right? You're going to push it down in there and get them seated so that they're seated down in there. This is the other part. This ball has a little groove that catches a little pin there. In this case, the pin is right there. If you look, you can see it right there. And that's important. You've got to get that in there. Then the other part of this, it has a little groove. And if you look right here, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little slot. And there's a little nub right there that's going to slide right down in that slot. And that's really important to compress that. And then what you do is you hold it. And what I do is I'll get my handle and push down while I'm screwing it down on there, because that's going to hold it all in place. So that's on that. Then as far as if you have water spraying out here when you turn it on, that's going to be your aerator. I don't know if we want to talk about that. That's towards the end. I'll go over that on the last part of it. But there you go on that. As far as the single handle, let me get you the two-handle kitchen style faucet. Again, there's several different faucets out there. And so this is just giving you a basic idea of a single handle and a dual handle, individual hot and cold handle. In this case, this is a kitchen faucet. You have a single handle faucet for your kitchen, which are real common. Some people like to have individual on and offs, because then you know you got hot and you got cold. You don't have to worry about, which one. So you're going to pop this off with a little flathead screwdriver. Take that tab off. In this case, you're going to unscrew the screw. I've got them on there just hand tight so I can go through this. You're going to take this off. Very similar type situation. If it's coming out around the base, that's going to be your gasket between your on and off as far as your cartridge goes. And if it's coming out of your aerator, it's going to be your washer. So you're going to unscrew this. This is called a single cartridge, and they're real common. And in this case, if it's leaking out around the base, when you turn it on, it's going to be this little O-ring right here. You can go get a new O-ring. I would recommend, if you're going to go, again, your water's turned off, you're going to open these off, make sure there's no water coming out before you go taking it apart. And then it's real important to take this cartridge with you. The other thing that I recommend, if someone wants to do something, and I do this when I'm getting into something I'm not familiar, I take my phone and I take a picture of each step. I'll take a picture once I take the handle off, because you see how this part right here is sitting? That's how your handle sits down on there. If you put this backwards, because there's two slots on this one, so it can actually set either way. If you don't watch how you take it out and put it back the same way, your handle is going to turn the opposite way. So I recommend taking pictures. You can always delete them with your phone or your tablet. So once you take that out, again, you have a little boot washer and a spring, same thing. And I like to use a little long, narrow screwdriver or my Allen to pull it out and put it back in. The same thing. Same as that other faucet, it's the same type spring and washer. Then you're going to see how you took it out. Make sure that's on the side that you took it out. And again, there's little tabs that you're going to push down in the slots. Once you get it there, you're going to hold it there. You're going to take your nut, hold it down, because you don't want that to pop up until you get it good and tight. Don't over tighten stuff. You can always tighten it a little more. And then you put, what I do is I put my handle on like that. I'll turn the water back on, and then I'll turn it on to see if everything's good. No leaks, no anything like that. I'll pop that off. I'll make sure no water's come out around here. And then you're good to go. So that's it on the two handle. As far as your aerator goes, they passed these out in a little packet along with the little color dye tabs. I like to use something like this to get a hold of it because it allows you to turn it and not hurt it or scratch it. You're going to take this off, and the aerators emit air into the water that actually make it soft. If you don't know what that aerator is actually doing, if you were to open and turn the water on, it comes out. It just comes out at kind of a abrupt, flow. What this does is it emits air into it. That's why they call it an aerator, and it makes the water soft. It just makes it nicer to wash your hands, and so if it's coming out around this when you turn it on, in this case you have a little washer right on top. Again, if you want to go get a new aerator, take it with you, put it in a baggie so you don't lose parts. And that's just a little trick I told all my guys. I gave them a box of baggies, put stuff in the baggie because you never know what could fall out and then you lose it. And then when you're trying to match it up, it doesn't seem right. So you have your little washer here. That's going to be, if it's coming out around the outer part where it seats. If it's spraying not really like it used to, it's kind of got a left or a right or a front spray. It's not even and smooth like it used to. A lot of times this little, it's actually it's a kind of a pressure. It regulates the pressure going through here, that little hole, and sometimes you'll get debris and particles in there from the water, and it'll get right in that circle, small little circle there. Let's see if I can get this out of my. Of course, I can't get it out. So this. Get my little, that's what's good about these. Put this in there, and then that pops it out. Can you see what let me show you here. So there it is right there. And then this right here will get debris in there too. So you just put that back on there after you clean it. A lot of times you don't have to replace it, just needs to be cleaned. Same with your shower head, you take it off. Same kind of setup. The aerator is very similar to that. You're going to put that back in. Again, watch how you take it apart. That's the biggest problem I have with people. Oh, I was doing good, and now it sprays everywhere. I can't get it to stop. And then you put that back in there. You put your washer. And sometimes, this stuff's all deteriorating. You need to go get a new one. And they sell. If you have similar faucets throughout the house, they sell little packets of these that you can get. And then this is the other really important thing. When you go to screw this aerator back on, whether it's for a lavatory or for a kitchen faucet, it's real important to not cross thread. And that goes for any of this. When you're taking nuts off, make sure that a lot of times they're plastic and metal threads combined, and it's real easy to cross thread. Now you're having to replace the whole faucet. So you want to feel that it's screwing on there right. You shouldn't take a whole lot of force to do it. And then again, if you want to, normally you can just hand tighten this, turn the water on. If it doesn't spray, then you're good. If you've got it you can get one of these if you don't have a really good grip, and that you can tighten it just a little bit more until it stops. Trying to think if there's anything else here. I think that does it for that. Let's see here. I think, other than the tools here, I don't know if I went over the supply lines. In this case, this is a toilet supply line. Most of the time, these are 3/8. And it's real important if you ever replace these supply lines to take them with you, because some of them are compression, some of them they've got a little washer and compression type, and that's the most common. And they're going to be the 3/8 by 1/2 inch angle stops or shutoff valves. And then again, you have your toilet that where it screws on. Again, don't cross thread. Even with experienced plumbers, they still get in a hurry and they get up in there, and if you don't feel that you're cross-threading, it's real easy. As far as, and I want to cover this because sometimes you'll start getting a leak, and sometimes it's just a matter of reaching up there and tightening it a little bit. Washers get worn out, and then you need to replace it. But that just takes your little adjustable wrench here, and then a lot of times the toilet part's hand tight, or you can reach up there with your adjustable wrench, put it on there. Again, don't be gentle with it, don't over torque. So I think that pretty much covers what I'm going to go over. I think I talked about the shutoff valve. Again, 1/2 inch here, 3/8 here. Again, that should stay there stationary on your water supply. And then you're just going to unscrew this part if you had to change out your supply line, and take this with you so you can get the exact one that matches your shutoff valve, your angle stop. And also, the other thing, I have 2 of them here to show you different lengths. That's the other thing. You want to make sure you get the same length. You go all the way up there, you get one like this, and oh, it's a 3/8 toilet supply. You get it, you get back there, and you got to run back up there and get this one. So again, take pictures, take them with you, put the small parts in a baggie. I think that is pretty much all I have for you. Heather, is there anything else you'd like me to cover?
Yeah, we can go ahead and start covering some of the other stuff. So one of the first things is, so you talked about turning off the water for the toilet underneath the toilet. How would I turn off the water for the faucet?
It's the same way. There's a faucet is going to have a hot and cold. There's going to be 2 of your shutoff valves. Again, this is one of your newer versions, the quarter turn. So in this case, it's going to be at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock position. Sometimes they're in there like this. So it'll be at 3 and 9 o'clock. So you just got to see how it is. And again, to turn them off, it's going to normally always be, I've never seen one not be this way. To turn off a faucet is always to the right, clockwise. So even if it's this way, it's still going to be clockwise. That's going to get it off. This is a quarter turn. It's only going to quarter turn. And then you have the other type angle stops or shutoff valves that are going to turn until you get them snug. And then again, it's always real important to turn the faucet on to make sure the water is actually off. So you have 2 of these. You have one on the cold on the right side. You have one on the hot side on the left. Sometimes they're hard to get to. The other problem a lot of people run into, even with these, they haven't been turned off for a long time. They get frozen, and they're really stubborn. You can get in there with a pair of channel locks gently. If you're not, again, you can use one of these. You know, a lot of times you'd be surprised, you know, if you open up pickles or something nowadays. I used to grab no problem. Now I grab this and it just makes everything better. But, you know, you can grab one of these. It's amazing how you get a little bit of something that can grab a hold of something, how much better you can turn it. If you can't, sometimes you can, again, I emphasize this. If you're not comfortable with something, don't do it. You know, the last thing you want to do is grab a hold of something and grab it wrong, like back on the actual valve, and twist it off. And next thing you know, it's coming off and you know, right in your face with the water. So, but if you're comfortable, you can get a hold of it and you can just turn it, give you a little assistance. That's all you're doing. Another way to do it, if you have a small adjustable wrench here, you can get on it like this, and you can do it this way. They make different sizes of these. I like the channel locks, adjustable wrenches, adjustable pliers, all the different names that are used. Again, if you have the round handle, the old style, you can put this right on the outer edges of the handle. And again, all you're wanting to do is kind of get it started. A lot of times when you get it started, you can grab it with your hand, or you can grab it with your little opener, and you can get it turned. get it good and snug. Again, always turn whatever you're turning the water off to before you start taking it apart, turn it on and make sure it's actually off. Sometimes even when you have it off, the washer inside, these go bad too. The old style have a little bib washer. It's a little rubber washer that actually seats against the seat, and those get deteriorated, especially if they haven't been turned off in a long time, and your water actually isn't off. That's real important. On the old style faucets, angle stop or stops, there's a little packing nut. So if you're turning that and then you turn it back on after you get your faucet repaired or your toilet repaired, it'll leak sometimes around your packing nut. And sometimes you've got to take and you got to hold your faucet and you take your adjustable wrench here and you put it on that outer nut. You be real careful and you just snug it, and that'll stop that leaking around that packing nut. That's what seats around your stem and keeps it from coming out. The other thing that's real important, it just came to me, is dry everything off really good around your faucet, around your toilet, around anything that you work on, and come back or check it. Dry hand is always my favorite. Get everything good and dry. Go back in 30 seconds and take your dry hand and just kind of feel around everything. Make sure you get around everything and just kind of, you can take a flashlight, shine it right down in there and see if you see anything back in there where you can't reach, and double check everything. I always tell people, check it 30 seconds later, come back a half hour, check it, put a paper towel down under the toilet, come back in 30 minutes. If everything's good, one more check the next day or later that evening, come back and check and make sure you don't have any leaks. Really important. I've gone, think I've got it, and I'll go work on something else. I'll lay a paper towel there and come back and there's a little bit of a drip. Sometimes even new parts don't fix it. Stuff's not made. It's made all over the place nowadays. So, even a brand new part may not fix the problem. Sometimes your internal parts of your faucet, could be pitted a little bit. You put a brand new one in there, it's still doing the same thing. So when you do take it apart, look around, make sure there's no debris in there, make sure the brass still looks good, the internal part still looks good. It's just something to keep in mind. Just because you put a brand new part in there doesn't always fix it. So, anything else, Heather?
Yes, we got lots of good questions. So just kind of piggybacking on that, what would you do then if, say, I went and I replaced all of my washers and everything, but I'm still getting a leak? Then what would you do?
Washers on a faucet?
Yeah, on the faucet. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, I'll go back to and that's a good question. When you change out cartridges, washers, again, maybe it went in there wrong. Maybe it's not the right one. Again, you've got to make sure you get the right part for the faucet. Even doing that, I'll go back to, you may actually have to replace the faucet. Sometimes you have a leak and you don't know it. Over time, it starts to pit the inside of that, around that cartridge or where that O-ring is, and it can no longer seat. Another thing on the O-ring, they have O-ring grease as well as here. You can put some waterproof grease, and really important on your cartridge. If you most of the time when you buy a brand new one, they come already greased a little bit. But I always, even with that, I take it's a little plastic container, maybe $3 at the hardware. It's waterproof grease. You put it on that O-ring. Sometimes that makes all the difference. When you have something that's been there, you take this out. You want to look down in there and make sure that all this part right here, in this case it's plastic, you know, it isn't looking real, you know, pitted. As far as your spring washers, I've had them where you put it back in there and there's a little chip right out of the top of that boot washer. So it's, you know, even though things are brand new, or you put it back in there and you pinched it, you just have to be real, kind of just take everything apart, watch how you do it, look at everything, and most of the time you know you'll be able to figure it out. If not, you know, the worst case, you may have to call a plumber. Hopefully not, but again, just replacing stuff doesn't always fix the problem with that particular change out.
Okay. And if I'm going to the store and I'm wanting to buy this packet of these things that you're talking about that would be, you know, taken out and replaced, what is that called? That kit that you would buy or at the store?
So you have like the single handle. In that case, it's a Delta. You would say, you know, you would take your part. This is why it's important. Take the part with you. I know what they are when I go, and even on some of the ones that I'm not real familiar with, because there's hundreds. I mean, you have stuff from Germany, you have stuff from all over the world here. You have American faucets, so it's real important that when you take that part out, take it with you. That's the best advice I can give anyone, and I've done that. I've taken out one that I haven't seen and taken it to a supply house and actually got, because there's 3 different types. You know, Moen makes different ones. Delta does. Even though it's a Delta faucet, a Moen faucet, a Price Pfister, a Kohler, they all have different parts, even though they're the same maker, manufacturer. So again, you have this particular one here is called a cartridge. That's a cartridge, a faucet cartridge. And then you have your single handle ball valve. And like on my Delta kitchen faucet, single handle, it has a pretty good size, maybe 1 inch, 1.25 inch size cartridge, and it's all one piece. And even when I take it out, I'm really watching it because there's an O-ring on the bottom, and I'm watching how I take it out, and I'll take it with me. Even with doing plumbing all the years that I did it, I still take stuff with me, so I make sure I get the right one. That's really the best advice I can give anyone, even experienced plumbers. It's unless you just absolutely know what you have, and you stock stuff on your trucks. Most of the time you have a lot of it. So what else you have, Heather?
Okay, so a lot of people have, along with their kitchen sink, one of the little sprayers. What if your kitchen sprayer is leaking?
Good question. So you have a vegetable sprayer, that's what I call it. You have the type that come out of that have the pull-out sprayer, but you also have the type that sit over here or sit right on your actual faucet base, or in some cases you have different holes and you have your vegetable sprayer. How that works is if that's leaking, the way it works is there's a diverter. There's a little diverter that diverts the water. Go figure. So you turn your water on, it's coming out here. You hit your vegetable sprayer, whether it's the pull out here or the kind that sits here with the little handle and the little trigger. So when you hit that trigger, it pushes that pressure from here, diverts it, closes it off to here, and takes it to the vegetable sprayer. If it's leaking out of there, it will be that diverter. In some of the faucets, there's a little diverter down inside your faucet spigot part right here, And a lot of the newer versions, you have to replace the whole vegetable sprayer because it's built into the actual hose itself, the vegetable sprayer hose. But on your spout right here, if you were to take this nut out, on especially the single handle is most common, and they're down inside there. That's what's great about some of the online YouTube videos and different things that you can look up. I recommend going to first find out what type of faucet you have. A lot of times it'll tell you right here. It'll tell you on the back side, get a little, sometimes, a lot of times they'll tell you right on the handle. But find out what type of faucet you have and go to that website. Delta, your manufacturers have great Kohler. They have great videos that show you what part needs to be replaced if it's doing that. That's what I recommend. And you can either go to your hardware store and have that part number, or you can actually go to the supply house and take a picture of it. Again, take a picture of what you have, go to a plumbing supply or hardware store and show them what you have and tell them what make it is if you can't take it apart, and they'll get you one to match it. Again, the vegetable sprayers come in all different types, but what makes it change over is the diverter. On mine, I had to actually have Delta send me one because it's actually built into my hose. It's not the old style where you have the little diverter that you can just take out and $5 you put a new one in. They get gummed up, they get calcified, and you pretty much have to replace it. What else you have?
Okay, and do those sprayers also have an aerator in them that might need to be replaced, or is it built in?
No, a vegetable sprayer is strictly what it is. It's designed to I use it to clean the sink, to clean vegetables. It's there's no aerator involved. Now, the pull-out types, they'll have a button, and it'll go from the standard flow of water, like an aerator would put out, to a vegetable spray type. So no, vegetable sprayer is designed to have, individual sprays to clean your grapes and different types of vegetables.
Okay, great to know. All right, so I know that we didn't really go over showers or bathtubs, but I just want to briefly, a few people had some questions about their leaks in their bathtub. So is replacing the washers on a bathtub, sink or a bathtub faucet, I guess, sort of a similar process as for the, faucet for your kitchen or whatever?
So yeah, you're to change out a shower, if your shower head's leaking and dripping when you turn it off, it's the same exact design of a single handle or a two handle. It's going to have this very similar identical type insides as your single handle lavatory or kitchen faucet, or a single handle, double handle, dual handle faucets in your shower. Same with your tub. If it's coming out the spout, that's going to be your washer, your spring, your boot washer to your cartridge. Again, the cartridges are your issue as well a lot of the times. So as far as taking that off, it's a very, very similar, and you can go to that manufacturer's website, and you can actually see, if you don't have the owner's instructions any longer, you can go to the site and see how it actually comes apart. And so in that case, you need to turn the water off at your house, shut off, and again, open up an outside hose bib, outside faucet, and make sure your water is turned off and leave it open. Just remember to turn it off when you turn your water back on. But I always leave it open, and then I know it's off, and then I'll go open up the faucet that you're going to do that to, and relieve the pressure, even though you have the outside on. And then follow your guideline from your manufacturer or your instruction booklet and take it apart. Again, take your parts with you and put it back the same way. Take pictures. And then when you turn your water back on, I like to have someone in the house, if they're there, go ahead and have that turned on, and you have your outside faucet. Turn your water on. That way you're not having, turn it on slow. Don't ever turn anything on fast. And then once your water's on, if you have your phones, you can say everything looks good. That's always advisable, especially on something you're not real familiar with. And then you can go ahead and turn your water all the way on. Turn your outside faucet on. The person inside can turn that off, and you can go check everything. A lot of misconception, a lot of people think they have a drippy shower head, and I can't tell you how many times they'll tell me, I'll turn my shower off, and 10 minutes later it'll drip. I'll hear water come out. That's a vacuum lock. You have a riser that comes off, a shower riser comes off your valve. It goes up, and you have very similar parts of an aerator in your shower head. Sometimes it'll hold water, and it'll have a little vacuum lock, and then in 5 minutes or whatever, you'll hear this water come out of it. Sometimes it'll hold water because it's a big shower head. You have these rain heads, and you have these different types of body, massagers and all this stuff on the heads, and it'll hold water in parts of it that take quite a while for it to actually get the water out. What I tell people is that you can take your shower head off, and if water's still coming out of your shower arm where your shower head connects, then you actually have a leak from your valve. And now you can go to the next step of getting that changed out. But first, make sure it's actually your valve and not the shower head. The other part of the shower head that you see a lot of times is it's not spraying like it used to. It gets calcified and build up just like a coffee machine will when there's steam or hot water involved, or just the hardness of the water. Over time, coming through little holes there, it will calcify. White vinegar is a great thing to soak stuff in. So I recommend taking the shower head out and soaking it in some white vinegar. It's a great cleaning solution. And check your washer. A lot of times you take your shower head off, there's a washer. Sometimes you don't see it, it gets cockeyed, and then it's leaking out around the threads. You can take some Teflon tape, which I have some. Let's see if I have some here. So you take some Teflon tape and you wrap it around again, you're going to take it in the direction that you turn. So if you're facing down at something, you're going to wrap it in the direction that you're going to turn it, because it has to finish. Otherwise, if you don't, it's going to just push that Teflon. I recommend doing it 3 or 4 times around your threads. Keep it away from the outer part of it. Don't let it, let me show you on this part here. When you wrap it, don't let it come over the edge, because then it'll get up in your little shower head and clog it up. So keep your Teflon back from the outer edge a little bit and wrap it 3 times. Take your hand, just kind of make sure, and then put your shower head back on. Make sure your washer's in place and still intact. Sometimes you need to go get a new washer. That's not a big deal. What else you got, Heather?
All right, so there are some people that have some very specific questions. So for those of you who haven't had your questions answered and it's a little bit more specific, I'm going to send those questions over to Jeff after we get done. And Jeff, if you'll be so kind to answer some of those questions off air, I'll send them to you through email, and then everyone who has answered or asked a really specific question will get you an answer through your email. But Jeff, I just want to end by here. Let me go ahead and turn my camera back on. I just want to end by talking about how do you know that it's time to hire a professional plumber? Like, how do I know it's really not going to be something I can do and it's time to just call somebody?
All right. So for me, I always tell people it's great that you want to try to do it yourself. And I recommend that if you're comfortable. It's all about being comfortable. If you get into something and you start feeling uncomfortable, you can't find the details, whether it's at the manufacturer website, then it's probably best at that point, because I've seen it time and time, so many times, where someone gets into something and they end up spending all this time and effort, and they still have to call someone. So it's all about the comfort of doing it. Do it, a lot of it, I think anyone, if they try it based on what I showed them here, and the internet manufacturer websites, it's so great. There's a lot of missing information as well, so you got to be careful. But it's all about the comfort, feeling comfortable about, I can do this. You got your water turned off, so what's the worst case? As long as it's after that supply line, you mess something up, okay, I tried, now I'm gonna call, my friend, the plumber. So, another thing I always tell people is, always use reputable companies. Make sure you make sure they're licensed. You can ask them for their license. No one should be happy to show you their license when they come to your house. They work hard to get that license. So if you have to call someone, and then you're also, I always tell people, if it's gonna be a certain amount, get 3 estimates from reputable companies. Feel comfortable about making that decision. I like to throw that out there because that's really important. I've seen a lot of times where they call their friend up and, at the church or whatever, and then, I've heard all kinds of different stories, like a lot of us have. And so it's just about using, your comfort area. You got your water off, go to the next step. What's it doing? It's coming out the here. Then it's your cartridge. If it's coming out around the base, this is your shower. This is your single handle faucet, your kitchen faucet, your lavatory faucet. It's going to be your seat area around where it seats off, where your handle turns inside, or your single handle ball. It's going to be that part of it. So if you just think about it, understand why it's leaking out of what part. Hopefully I gave that description well enough you can determine that. Then you can go about it. Most of you, I think, if you just think about it, go in steps, you're not going to hurt anything. You might break something, and, then you've got to call someone out, and you can say, hey, I did my best. I've had that. I've had electricians say, I thought I could do that, and I do the same thing with electrical. So, it's all about getting comfortable and feeling where you're at. And if you get to a point where, it's not feeling right, it probably isn't.
Okay, that's great advice. And like you said, there's a lot of great resources out there, right? Like YouTube and things like that. So definitely do your research right before you start just diving in and taking things apart, right?
That's right.
Okay, great. All right. Well, we're nearing the end. So, Jeff, I want to thank you so much for just inviting us into your shop there and giving us all of your awesome plumbing wisdom. And I want to remind everybody who is an Arlington resident that you can check your email after we're done with this, and you'll get instructions on how to go pick up a plumbing manual at your local library. And so that's really great because it will also give some more reference for some of these things and describe some of these things in a little bit more detail so that maybe you can feel comfortable doing those things at your own house. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jeff. And any other plumbing wisdom you want to share before we sign off today?
Now, again, just I wish you the best, and do your homework if you're not comfortable. Like Heather said, there's great resources out there. Again, I can't emphasize enough, use licensed contractors, licensed companies, because they're going to be insured as well. So that's always promote as an inspector, as a prior plumber. I promote using licensed, experienced people when it comes time to do it.
Absolutely. That is a great tip. All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Jeff. And thank you so much for joining us, everyone out there. And happy plumbing fixes. Have a good evening.
Bye
Bye.
now. Bye-bye.